Nicodemus here. Today, we want to talk about miracles. And I know I want to get clear on what exactly a miracle is and what the definition is in the Course.
It's funny because this it's a Course in Miracles, so it should be a very simple definition. And it's really funny how the ego can find conflict in anything. It even says it in the Course, right? So there's a debate in the Course in Miracles community on what a miracle is. They can't even agree on it, right? So, and it's an interesting thing for me because I had learned the Course from somebody who studied with Ken Wapnick. There was only one version. There was a couple of different versions. I shouldn't say that, but they were all similar. It was only in 2013, I think, that I discovered the urtext, however you want to pronounce it, and it was some of Helen's original notes. And I remember exactly where I was sitting when I got it. I found that I was in training. There was a trainer forum, and I had just graduated mine in Mexico. So it was the first one that was happening in the United States, and I was in the back. Might have been the first or second one. I was scrolling. I had some time, and I don't know how I got my hands on this. I was reading it, and I remember thinking at first almost uneasy because I'm like, this is Helen's original notes. There's a lot on sex in here. A lot of this didn't make it in. Now I have to decipher, like, is this Helen or is she channeling? Like, So it was very choppy though. And we had spoken about, I think on a previous podcast, that the Circle of Atonement, Robert Perry and these guys went and filed a lawsuit and went all the way up to the Supreme Court and won in court to get Helen's original notes. And I really think they did actually a great service because one of the things I love, we talked about these cameos and adding Helen's original notes, and they put comments in there and they made it a lot more digestible for people. They also wrote a book that I got, and I didn't read it like cover to cover. I skimmed through. I just want to see the major points of it because I don't, like the Course says, the ego always looks for differences. The spirit always sees the sameness because we're at our core all the same, right? So it's obvious. Well, they did this, and it created a lot of controversy. It created almost two camps, which for me is laughable, right? Because I don't, there is no camp. You're literally, the Course is very clear. You read it, there's lessons, and you apply it to your life. Getting into debate about it is just, to me, seems like a very ego tactic. And it doesn't mean you shouldn't debate either. I think, when reading some of the Circle of Atonement's ideas, it really became clear that they had a say. And they really had a good argument in some ways. So they wrote this course called One Course, Two Visions. Even how they differed from, let's say, Ken Wapnick, who was Helen's close friend and helped edit the course, or at least compile it, put it together. So what I learned originally, a miracle is a shifting in your mind from fear into love. There's only two thought systems, and when you shift, that's the miracle. But what that actually starts to do is people just sit around all day and like, I need to just get into love. I need to just think loving thoughts. And which, yes, you want to listen to the Holy Spirit, and the Holy Spirit's thought system is always teaching us and built on love, peace, forgiveness, joy, abundance. When these cameos came out, it brought a whole different view. I make a joke and I say, if Course in Miracles was a movie, the cameos are like the TV show. Like, we came out with a few seasons. There's 33 episodes. And they tell the story of Helen Schuckman and her journey through life, talking to this voice, which she later identifies and asks the voice, who is this? And it says Jesus. That's a whole other, it would actually make a great TV show. And didn't really believe in any of the material. It was very challenging for her. So in there, she's led very specifically by this voice, which she does. She just calls the voice in the beginning, almost like an older brother dictating to her A Course in Miracles, but not just the Course, really guiding her throughout her life. And that paints a picture of a miracle as something different than just shifting your mind. Yes, shifting your mind is part of the atonement and healing, absolutely. But it says in the Course, revelation, connection to God, let's say revelation is a complete suspension of fear, and all it does is it induces awe and reverence. What Jesus says in the Course is that's not an appropriate response for him, because awe implies inequality. If you're in awe of your older brother, that he's like, listen, you could be devoted to me because I'm devotional, and let's say as an older brother, the father entrusted me with your safety, like an older brother looks after his younger brother or sister. So, he's entitled to respect and all of that, but in no way is he to be confused with the father. Like when an older brother babysits, at no point ever is there ever confusion of like, oh, wait, are you my dad? That makes no sense. And even us, like growing up with brothers and all that, if my older brother looked after us, we always knew he's simply our older brother because dad's not home. Okay. Well, it's the same thing. So awe is a complete suspension of fear, right? And it just produces, or revelation is a complete suspension of fear, and it results in awe. Those revelatory experiences for us, they happen in our life, but they're not the norm. That's why actually miracles, he says in the Course, induce action. So miracles are about the process of extending love in this game of life. So your relationships and your brothers and sisters and like that doing maybe the clearing some old static in this relationship. Like, how do I think of this person, and what do I extend the chalice? Do I offer a crown of thorns or a gift of lilies to this person? Where am I harboring resentment? Where is like the war still showing up in my life outside of me? So miracles are very much, because even Helen there was this, in one of the cameos, Helen, there was a nurse that was taking care of one of Helen's friends who was dying of brain cancer, I think it was. And this nurse, basically Jesus said to Helen, like, she's performing miracles like every day. She would say things to Helen like, well, if God wills it, he can just get right up and walk out of here. Like, and what Jesus says, she's performing miracles every day because she's learned how to extend love constantly in the face of death and dis-ease and sickness. So he's like, she's performing miracles all the time. And there was times Helen would perform a miracle, but not be in her right mind in this. So what Robert Perry and some of these guys at Circle of Atonement were talking about is that and this is it. Listen, I think anyone talking about Course of Miracles, I think is awesome in the end, but the Course it's really between you and the Holy Spirit. So for me, it doesn't matter other people's. I just have read somebody has like a Course of Miracles cult. So the ego is a trickster, and it's all, I've seen all that through like the guru game. The gurus who was like just sleeping with student. I mean, all kinds of human beings can get messy, right? What I had heard very early on for me, like in my own heart, I feel like the Holy Spirit was like, all you need to do is just study the Course and practice it. It's not, you don't need an intermediary. Like, I'm happy to share. But I tell people all the time, like, I'm not a Course in Miracles teacher. I'm a student of the Course. I just have been practicing it for over a third of my life, like all the time, through many different scenarios, through deaths, through people, like through market crashes, through like relationships and betrayals. And I just like practiced it in those situations because I didn't really have I knew intuitively, I was like, it works. So I know I might not be good at it, but I'm a willing learner. And just like an athlete, I grew up as an athlete, as long as you're coachable, like if I'm coachable, I just read Michael Jordan was said, he's like, his greatest talent, his greatest asset was how coachable he was. He was like a sponge, right? So for me, I was coachable. What I start to realize, and what he says in the Course, is that you will become more basically sold on miracles the more you practice them. So the more that you implement them in your life, become a channel for miracles, the more you will start to see, oh, this is the way out of the nightmare. Because and this is where I think the Course is really a specific path in this way. And a lot of teachers and even people like in that teach Course Miracles, they talk about, they take key points of the Course. And like, that's great. If the masses and all this, it's great. I love, as a trainer, I learn the purity of the training, right? You just deliver it. When I do the training, I do it a certain way. And it's taking me many years of practice. And when I deliver it, I tell people, I was training trainers recently, like, it's more of an art than a science, right? Because there's an artistic in it. By learning it and learning the distinctions and the exercises and how to land things, all of that. The Course for me is very much, and practicing miracles is very much like we're led very specifically. Your thoughts, like you just get a hunch, right? Even something like Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill's, you got a hunch and you follow that. You're going to be led very specifically. So to define miracles in the end, it's not just a shifting in your mind from fear into love. It's also the extension of love out in the game, in the dream. Extending offers of basically the gift of lilies in your thoughts to everyone that you meet in all beings. And that, you could see why we're here to practice, because it's not easy at all, right? Because there's so many appearances and you want to be like, I don't like you. I don't like that. So the miracle is, what does love look like? So teach only love, for that is what you are. Then the miracle is about that extension and practically extending it in all these different moments of your life, being led very specifically by the Holy Spirit and following that call. And like, okay. And that's how we really ultimately heal, because as we become those channels for miracles and extend the Holy Spirit in moments and situations in our life, the light gets brighter and the fire burns more, because the Holy Spirit's so dim when we come into this game for all of us. Like, that's why the descent into fear or into darkness for a lot of people. The miracle is the bringing of the light. It's an act of bringing of it. It's not, let me just hang out and just think cool thoughts. And like that, I'm still annoyed at, my in-laws, and like this person pisses me off, and, but I dress really nice. And I do plant medicine ceremonies, and like I can meditate for 10 hours, like all that stuff. It's like easy when you're sitting in a cave. I've literally sat in caves in India. Like, it's easy. Really the challenge is, they used to say, Ram Dass would say, is like, the challenge is coming into the marketplace. Can you maintain that peace that you have on the mountaintop when you're in the marketplace with people, and people that you've had experiences in your life, people like betrayals, and just actively participating in things that they feel like dark and sinister. But you realize, though, the ego doesn't really have any power, and the miracles only offer peace and forgiveness, because that's what I want returned to me. Now, it doesn't mean you're a doormat in the world, and no, actually, you'll be led very specifically, and most of the stuff of the dramas in people's lives just get handled when they start to learn how to listen and practice the miracles ultimately in. So I think that I would like to say, I'd like to combine both. There's like two schools of thought. There's a shifting of love into fear into love. And then the other one's like, no, it's extending love out into the world. And there's been all these debates on it. How about we just combine and be like, shift your thoughts from fear into love and extend that out into all the people in your life, all the beings, all of creation. That's the miracle in the end.